Went on trial, we're talking baseball. Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Inside Pitch with Joe Mansolino and my co-host tonight, Chris Strickland.
Well, Joe, it's great to be with you tonight. Of course, Paul had to take the missus out for a little bit of R&R tonight, and of course, glad to sit in with you tonight, and we're going to talk about some baseball. And before we get too far into this, we need to say congratulations to our Pensacola Blue Wahoos. A great season, and just didn't work out for them this year. But hey,
but they made it to the playoffs first time and looked really, really good.
And of course, Biloxi swept them in 3 games. But I tell you what, I know Coach Kelly's very excited about the future for these Pensacola Blue Wahoos.
The future's looking good. Some real great teams. Props to them. We got a great race going on in baseball as it's coming down to the wire. Some really good races, especially that National League Central. We got the Cardinals that are in first place. The Pirates going into today. The Pirates were 5 games back, but had lost 4 in a row. The Cubs had won 4 in a row, or 6 games back, and the Cubs won today. The Cardinals lost today, so that's going to be a really, really exciting race that I think is going to go down to the wire, and I think that the Cubs are going to do it. I think they're going to pull it out. What do you think?
I mean, you know, I'm a Cardinals guy. I love the Cardinals. I went to Busch Stadium one time, and I've kind of fell in love with the Cardinals, and ever since the Braves have kind of just started to fall off, but you can't go against what Joe Maddon's doing right now. They are one of the hottest teams. I said it this morning on the Sports Zone with Paul. I said the team that's hot at the right time could win the World Series. And just like last year in college football, you had the number 4 team get hot at the right time and go all the way and win the whole thing. The Cubs are the hottest team in baseball right now. Cubby fans, you guys may end your 100-year drought of winning a World Series.
The Cubs are just playing really good baseball. Just in this month, they're 12-5. They're on a 5-game winning streak now after today. They had already won another 5-game winning streak in that stretch this month. I mean, they are just on fire.
And the Cardinals are beginning to implode. They're like, you know, I think you and Paul were talking about, I caught some tail ends of the show last week a little bit, talking about they're trying to worry about getting Adam Wainwright back.
Right.
They don't need to worry about getting Adam Wainwright back. They need to be worrying about holding on to the Central Division, because home field advantage for them could be pulled away and having to go to Wrigley.
Absolutely right. And I think the difference right now, the Cubs are playing to have fun. They're not feeling the pressure. They're young kids. They're just playing to have fun. And I think St. Louis is starting to feel the pressure.
Right. All they've heard this year about it, and you've watched a lot, and I've watched the ESPN, they said the Cardinals are the best team in baseball. They are the best team in baseball. They're the best team. Mike Matheny's the best manager in baseball. They've got the best clutch hitting. They got the best rotation. They got the best clutch catcher. They've got everything. They're basically they've been handed a World Series, but it's played on the field between between those foul lines, and the Cubs are showing. Hey, talk about them all you want to. Joe Maddon's like, talk about them all you want to. We're gonna sneak up on everybody,
and they're doing that. We talked about that in the beginning of the show, our very first show. We talked about it, and I said I think the Cardinals are going to come down and choke at the end of the year, and it's happening later than I thought it would. I thought they would do it in the beginning of the month and then start getting it back together, but they are falling apart at the wrong time. And like you said, this isn't the time to fall apart. This is the time to get hot and stay on a streak, and they're just not doing it.
Right. And the biggest lead, of course, is the AL Central, which I think Kansas City's fixing to lock that one up pretty much. I think if they win tonight, I think they lock it up tonight.
I think so too. I think they've got it made pretty much. Let's stick with the National League for now. The Mets are playing well again. They're in first. Ever since they swept the Nationals, the Nationals are out of it, I think. They're 8 games back going into today. I think the Mets have it locked up. They're playing really well.
Right. Do you think that could be a manager swap there? Do you think that the manager of the Nationals will be dismissed at the end of the season because they were the top team in that division, and then all of a sudden they've just imploded? Do you think that'll be a dismissal?
They were projected to win the World Series at the start of the year. And I do think so. I thought all along, and have said so, that I don't think Matt Williams was the right pick for them. I think Dusty Baker would have done a much better job as their manager.
And I believe that might be one of our guests calling
See
in.
who this is. Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Pitch.
This is the Jersey, one of them Jersey boys.
Mr. Yankee, Pat from Newark, New Jersey. How you doing, Pat?
Good, good.
Good. So,
First thing I want to say, after 9/11, is I want to give shout out to the first responders, the bravest people I know.
very, very much so.
Yes, most definitely.
Very, very much so. With all,
They're
all these
wonderful.
crazy things going on in the world with shooting cops and stuff, the first responders are amazing.
They're heroes, Joe.
They
They're
are
heroes.
very much so.
Okay,
So, what do you think about these playoffs? What about these races?
okay. Let me just bring one thing. Do you remember in 1988?
You mean when the Dodgers and Kirk Gibson won it all?
Yeah, and one of the greatest managerial performances ever.
One of the greatest managerial performances ever. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Dallas Strawberry had an excellent year, didn't he?
He did.
Okay, but Kirk Gibson won the MVP because he really was more valuable.
Very much so. Very much so.
Now, do you see a similar situation with Bryce Harper, who's got all the stats, but his team is not going to make it, and Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs?
You know, I do.
That is a good
I really
point.
do. We were just talking about the Nationals and how they're falling apart, and I don't think Matt Williams was a good fit for them. I thought Dusty Baker was a much better fit. And you're right. I think that's true. I think, and it's nothing against Bryce. He's doing what he can,
No,
but
having a great year.
he's having a great year. And when the show started, I projected him to be the MVP this year, and I still think he will be.
I think the MVP needs to go to a playoff contender.
I do too.
I think it needs to be, and Mr. Yankee will like this. I think it needs to be Alex Rodriguez because of what he had to go through last year, sitting out for an entire season, and what he has been able to do this year. I think they ought to give it to Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, he should definitely get a mention.
He should get a mention. There is nobody who would have thought that he would have had this kind of comeback.
No,
And I don't
no,
think there's anybody who would have thought the Yankees would be in the race.
Nobody thought they would. Everybody was picking the Yankees. Were picking third, second, and third. They're in the thick of this thing
They sure
between
are.
the Toronto Blue Jays and them. And who would have thought Toronto would come out and give the Yankees the biggest run for their money?
And I'm loving that. I'm loving how Toronto's looking. What do you think about that race with Toronto and your Yankees?
Well, I think Toronto's got the better horses right now, Joe. We lost Mark Teixeira and Evaldi. I actually think Mark Teixeira might have been the MVP of the Yankees.
I agree with that
I do.
wholeheartedly.
I do.
He was very consistent. But you know what? I mean, you really do. Teixeira has played pretty consistent his whole career. And A-Rod has gone through a lot and taken that year off, just like Chris said. I mean, the way he came back this year, nobody could have guessed that. He has just been phenomenal.
And I
He
know
has. But I tell you, I like this kid
Hey,
Donaldson.
Pat, can you call back, please? We got somebody coming right now, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe it's Mr. Dennis Gilbert, our special guest for tonight, has joined us, and we'll catch him.
Hello, this is Joe.
Think we might have
Hello,
him right
Mr.
now.
Gilbert? Hello?
Well, all right, we're trying to get Mr. Gilbert on the line. Of course, Mr. Dennis Gilbert, he'll be our special guest tonight here, and we'll be calling him back here in just a few minutes. What we're going to do, folks, we're going to try to take a break here. Of course, I've never produced this show before, but we're going to try to take a break right quick and hear from our great friends at Blue Angels Music. And this is the Inside Pitch with Joe Manzolino.
And Chris Strickland.
welcome to Blues Angel Music. How can I help you today?
You guys have a left-handed Taylor Koa 12-string?
Yes, we do.
Well, how about a MSA Sidekick pedal steel?
Yes, we do.
Alright, how about someone that can teach me the banjo?
Yes, we do.
How about someone that can fix this?
Yes, we do.
I bet you don't have a drum set fish tank.
Yes, we do.
Blues Angel Music. We buy, sell, rent, fix, and teach any type of instrument you can think of.
Do you sell band instruments? My son wants to play the trombone.
Yes, we do.
My son was a little rough with his trombone. Do you do repairs?
Yes, we do.
Do you buy used instruments? My son wants to take up ventriloquism.
Yes, we do.
Do you rent band instruments? My son has decided he wants to play the trombone again.
Blues Angel Music. Yes, we do.
Pensacola. Are you curious about our coast? Go to visitpensacola.com for the latest information on Pensacola Beach and Perdido Key. Come enjoy 450 years of history. Our unhurried pace soothes your senses with art galleries, world-class museums, festivals, air shows, and great local flavors, all linked by miles of sugar white beaches. So come enjoy Pensacola. Many properties avoid cancellation fees and are offering money-back guarantees. Call or click visitpensacola.com.
Up in the morning, and I'm out. Let's go, batter up. We're taking the afternoon off. It's a beautiful day for a ball game, today. The fans are out to get a ticket or two.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest is Dennis Gilbert. Dennis played for the Red Sox and the Mets in 1968 and 69, and former Major League catcher and 83 World Series MVP Rick Dempsey gave him the name Go-Go Gilbert. He then played in the Mexican League in 1971, where he was called Go-Go Gringo. He then started an insurance business in 1972. He became an agent in 1980 and ran both businesses for 19 years. He founded Beverly Hills Sports Council in 1984 with some of his clients, including George Brett, Mike Piazza, Ricky Henderson, Kurt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Brett Saberhagen, Jose Canseco, and Bobby Bonilla. He then sold the Beverly Hills Sports Council in 1998 when they had over 200 players. He is now a special assistant to Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the Chicago White Sox, since 2001. And Dennis has founded the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation in January of 2003 to help scouts. And there was an article written in the Los Angeles Daily News that stated that Dennis has done more for baseball than most owners, most general managers, and all sports writers. You may not know his name, but ex-scouts that need to make a mortgage payment know who he is, and do kids in South Central LA that needed a field to play on. Dennis, how you doing today?
My gosh, what a beautiful. Actually, thank you very, very much for all your kind words, Joe. And by the way, I didn't play in the major leagues. I was a minor league player.
Right, for those organizations, correct.
Yes, I did play for those organizations. But thank you for saying all those nice things.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, because I think baseball scouts, without a doubt, and especially the older ones back in the day, were the most underrated part of the game, and today we have computers and technology, and I still don't think they do the job that those professional scouts did. So tell us a little bit about the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation.
Well, it would be hard to do that in just a few minutes, but let me just say this. First of all, there are 5 different types of scouts. There's a scout that goes to high school or college games and sees kids before they get into professional baseball, and they do their evaluations off the sandlots, and those scouts are one type of scout. The second type of scout is when a person gets into professional baseball, on one of those minor league teams all over the country. Every single player in every single minor league gets a report written up on it by every single team. That's actually the second type of scout. Then you have the scout that runs around and does your major league scouting, and he goes. And if you go to a major league game, you'll see about anywhere from 6 to 10 major league scouts and reporting on every single major league player. Next, you have what they call the advanced scout. Scout that goes to the games just before your team would play against one of the teams on the field, and they would report on them. And lastly, you have your international scouts. So the people that go to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Japan, Korea, they're all over the place. And they do all those types of scouting. So when you run some and say scouts, but they all do different things.
Very true, very true. And each one has their own specialty, and each one does a tremendous job. And in my opinion, each one is very underrated and underpaid. And you have done some fantastic work to help those people out, get them recognition, get them where they're not homeless anymore and where they have things going for them. You've just really, really been a tremendous asset to all those people. And on behalf of them in baseball, I'd really like to thank you for that. I mean, that is just a wonderful, wonderful gift that you've given to them.
Well, thank you. I really believe in scouting. You know, when people, there was a time when people were saying, well, we can scout by video. Well, they really can't scout by video because how can you tell on video whether somebody has a sore arm or a sore calf muscle or playing with a pulled hamstring or something like that? You really can't. You really have to see it. And good scouts actually talk to coaches on each of the teams in professional baseball, and even they talk to high school coaches to find out, makeup issues on each of the players. So when you're writing your report, makeup is an important part. But you can't see everything with statistics. Although I have a saying about statistics, which is statistics are kind of like bikinis. They show you a lot, but not everything.
Boy, is that the truth.
Yeah, I'd say that's just right. That's just perfect. Perfect analogy there.
That really says it all. Really says it all. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of people didn't realize the different types of scout, and thank you for sharing that, because this isn't just a current baseball show. I mean, I want people to know baseball history and those kind of things, to really know the game, and I think that's important. Thank you for that.
Well, I'm delighted to do it.
Now let's talk a little bit about that arbitration procedure and the salaries and how that works. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, that's when a player hits his 2+ years of major league service time, he's eligible to arbitrate his salary. And generally, between he and his representatives, they'll pick a number that they think is appropriate, and the club will pick a number that they think is appropriate. And if they don't come to an agreement, they go to a hearing where there are 3 arbitrators, and each side makes a presentation. And I would say most of it is based on statistical information. Most of it offensive statistics, and some of it would be defensive statistics. What I used to do when I was an agent is I'd also show some video on just to get a real feel for what the player, what the player is and how he was received by the fans. And, there's different criteria that you use when you're trying an arbitration case. And I used everything I could in each of the arbitrations.
And I think you have to do that. I mean, you have to show how valuable that player is to that team.
That's correct, and sometimes it all doesn't show up on statistics. It's like hitting the ball to the right side of the infield with a man on second and nobody out.
Mm-hmm. Very true, very true. And we were just talking a little bit about Kirk Gibson in 1988 for the Dodgers, and he didn't necessarily have the greatest statistics that year, but without a doubt, he was the most valuable player for the team. So you're right. It's those kind of things that you don't always see in stats.
Well, let me take that one step even further. Kirk Gibson is the answer to one of my very favorite trivia questions, which is, who is the only player in the history of baseball to win an MVP that never played in an All-Star game?
Wow.
Wow. That's very interesting.
But even with the numbers that he put up, winning a World Series and never got to play in an All-Star game, that's amazing.
That's all because the statistics came in the second half.
Right. That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
Well, Mr. Dennis, you're talking about the salaries and stuff like that. There's a certain guys that are making so much money right now, of course, in the major leagues. Like a guy like Albert Pujols, who signed that ridiculous 10-year, $270 million deal. Right now, if you were evaluating him right now, do you think he's worth that money right now? Since after his team has declined here in the last second half of the season.
Well, I won't comment on any players or any team's players, but what I will say is the average first baseman 2015 is making $7,176,000. That's average.
Wow.
And if he was a designated hitter, the average designated hitter in 2015 is making $8,451,000.
Okay, I need to be a designated hitter.
Maybe it's just the length of contract that you're really disputing.
Wow, which position is the highest paid if in 2015?
Well, I believe it is a designated hitter.
Okay.
So that's why salaries in the American League historically have been more up until now that the Dodgers have broken the $300 million mark.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, I mean, the DHs have put up the stats, have put up the numbers. They can still hit. And for whatever reason, usually a little older, so they're not as quick or not as fast on the field, but they can still hit and are eligible to still be in the game.
That's true, but now in the National League, as you know, they don't have designated hitters, and generally your 25th man on the team is a utility guy.
Right.
Or maybe another relief pitcher.
Right.
Those are the two positions that actually make the rest. You got the average relief pitcher in Major League Baseball today, even with the big salary some of the closers are getting, are $1.878 million, and your utility guys, their average salary is $587,000.
Whoa,
wow.
That's a big difference.
So, there's disparity, and that's why the American League salaries have been historically higher.
Wow, I mean, and you're right that all teams are the same except for that one position. So for each American League team, instead of paying $587,000, you're paying $8 million on average. That's a tremendous difference.
That's correct.
Wow.
David Ortiz is worth $8 million to the Boston Red Sox. That is unbelievable.
And he still puts up.
He's probably making more than that, and he's probably worth more than that.
I think so too. I think what he's doing, his whole career is just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. We also we talked a little bit about the highest paid players and some about the arbitration and salary process. I just really again would like to thank you for what you do for the scouts. I mean, I've been to a couple of the RBI dinners, and when you see them there and you see their faces, you have just been tremendous to them, and baseball fans around the world need to know that and appreciate you for all that you do.
Well, maybe they should call you if they want information about the Professional Baseball Scouts dinner. This year we're going to have quite a group. You know, historically we've had everybody from Cal Ripken to Sandy Koufax come by and give little speeches.
Right.
Last year we honored the outgoing commissioner, Bud Selig, and I think we've had Willie Mays on the deals before. And this year we've got Maury Wills, we'll have Dave Winfield, we'll have Billy Reinsdorf will be on there. We'll have a pretty good group of people again, and the commission.
Outstanding. I miss talking to Maury. I've been friends with him for a long time. And we talked about Maury, and if you can share your thoughts on this one, do you think Maury belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Well, he was my favorite player.
Me too.
I mean, all he did was his job. When he got on first base, he caused a lot of intangibles that statistics will never show, just like Dee Gordon. When he's on base, it really messes up the psyche of a pitcher.
Very much so.
Statistics will not show that.
Absolutely right. Back to what you were saying, and that's very true. And Maury and Dee, but Maury is a prime example of that. I mean, and as a fan, especially growing up in that time in Los Angeles, you knew that if Maury was on first, he was going to end up scoring. They may not have got another hit, but he was going to end up scoring.
That's true.
It was very, very exciting. Very exciting. Well, Dennis, I know you're busy. I know I wanted to keep it to the arbitration and the highest paid players and not get into anything else this time. I want to thank you very, very much for participating with us and for sharing your thoughts. And again, for the scouts, all the things that you do for them. Thank you very much for calling in tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for calling.
Yeah, it's good to speak to you, and you have yourself a good weekend.
I will, and have fun tonight, Dennis. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye now.
All right, thank you.
Man's done a lot for professional scouts there, Joe.
The man has done a lot for baseball. And like the LA Daily News said, he's done more for baseball than general managers, owners. He just really knows the game, has a heart of gold, and you don't usually hear about that, especially when you're talking about agents.
Right. I did not know this, but he brought average first baseman in the American League $1 million less than a designated hitter. You know, David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez, Billy Butler, that's, of course, designated hitter for the Oakland Athletics. These guys like this are making money, and then you look down at the National League, utility players making basically minimum wage in the pros.
They have to struggle by at $575,000 a year.
That's considered minimum wage in the pros now.
Right. Well, that's the average salary for them. Yeah. I mean, it's night and day for that 25th player, be it a DH or be it a utility guy or relief pitcher.
Right, most definitely. Well, we're going to have more coming up. We're going to take a commercial break. And, of course, I believe Mr. Yankee will
be back when we come back.
If he'll come on back in, we will put you on the air and we will finish up our conversation. More of the Inside Pitch coming up.
Where are all the country girls?
They're at farmersonly.com.
Day 38. Gaining the trust of the locals hasn't been easy. I might blend in better with the right dance partner. Maybe not so spicy. Spicier than that, though. Whoa. Popeye's new Red Stick Chicken. All white meat chicken seasoned in a Tabasco pepper marinade and served with Cajun fries, biscuit, and ranch dipping sauce for $3.99.
All right.
Going native.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man song.
He's the man. He's the man.
I don't take no crap from anybody else but you. I wear the pants around here when I finish with your laundry.
And welcome everybody back into the inside pitch with Joe Manzolino and of course Chris Strickland filling in tonight for Paul. And we got Mr. Yankee back on.
Mr. Yankee's back on. Go ahead, Mr. Yankee. Pick up where you left off.
Well, I think Josh Donaldson's going to be the American League MVP. He's been consistent all year, not only with his hitting, but he's a good glove man.
Very much.
I agree with that, Mr. Yankee, a lot.
He is.
Yeah, you know what? And he's been right in the middle of the Blue Jays surge. So.
And you know, and Chris was saying earlier, if the MVP, those kind of things, it should come from a playoff contending team, and who better than the Blue Jays?
Right. And in the National League, somebody on the Cubs is doing the job.
I think the MVP should be Joe Madden because he's the one that he's basically brought them young guys together.
Yes, but as far as players go, I like Anthony Rizzo.
I do too. I think everybody does.
I think he is the choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that this year Bryce Harper has had a better year, but Bryce Harper hasn't helped his team get it, which isn't his fault. Hasn't helped his team get into the playoffs. I think Anthony Rizzo is the selection right now.
I think he is too.
Yeah. And I think it's a great selection. I tell you the two teams to watch as we go into October is the Texas Rangers and the Chicago Cubs. What do you think?
I picked the Texas Rangers and the Kansas City Royals to face off in the ALCS. I wouldn't be because Josh Hamilton has changed the dynamic of that team. Prince Fielder's hitting the ball right now, and the Astros have basically imploded. I think it's going to be I think that series is going to go 7. And also, I think if the Cubs can get by and the Cubs can win the division, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Kansas City and Chicago in the World Series.
Wow, that would be a great World Series.
I could see the Cubs going in. I really am. It's looking like if the Cubs keep playing well, they can win that Central. But even if they don't, I think they have the wild card locked up, and I think they're the hottest team in the game. I think they're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can win. I think they will be better to go against the Mets or the Dodgers. I could see them winning it.
You know, but I do think maybe they're a year away from really winning it all. I like the Dodgers right now. That's a veteran team. That's got some really good clutch players.
And they've got two of the best clutch pitchers in the game, too. You got Clayton Kershaw, and then you got Zach Greinke. You got a 2-0 series lead. You got those two guys. Holy cow.
And I would love to see that. I would love, especially if Kershaw can pull a Bumgarner this year and actually perform in the playoffs. That would be a wonderful thing. But let me ask you this question. Are you saying the Dodgers are that well because somewhere where their manager came from?
I tell you, I think he's doing a pretty good job, Joe.
Do you?
I mean, they are in first place, Joe.
They are in first place.
And they're going to win their division.
Yes, they are.
They will win the division.
And again, just like what happened with the Mets. When the Mets swept the Nationals, they've been playing well since then. And when the Dodgers swept the Giants, I mean, they've been in command since that point.
Hey, Joe, look, he's no Tommy Lasorda.
You know, not many people are.
No, there was only one Tommy Lasorda, and there's only one Joe Torre, and I still wish he was managing Mr. Yankee. I still wish that he could. I miss him, and Tony La Russa, and I miss Bobby Cox, of course. I miss all these old guys, but it's good to see some of the young blood like Joe Girardi, and if there's a manager of the year, you got to give it to Joe Girardi. He has done such a great job with the less pitching that he's had, and with what he's had to deal with this year, for him to get his team in playoff contention. Manager of the year, if they gave it away, it'd have to go Joe Girardi.
Joe Girardi has won that award before.
Yes, he has.
He needs to deserve it. He needs it again.
Yes, he has. But when he won it the last time, they were projected to win, and they sure weren't this year.
Yeah.
I think this has been his best year managing.
Yes.
I don't know if that's good enough to win the Manager of the Year, but I do think this has been his best year managing. in his
I tell you who's the runaway choice in the National League. That's Joe Madden.
Bingo.
He's got to be it. I don't think there's any doubt.
That's hands down.
Any question at all. There's not. This guy has done. Oh my God! With these young kids, hey, I tell you something. That's it. Now the Cub fans can say, "Hey, we got a team of the future."
Well, you know, and going into this season, a lot of the Cub fans, including our own Paul Marini, was talking about the Cubs
And
being.
guess who's calling in? Paul's calling in.
Being next year's, being there for next year and the years after that. And I told people, don't put the Cubs out this year. And they're doing it. And, and we talk about Joe Madden and what a great job he's done, and he has, not to minimize that at all, but it all started with Theo Epstein.
It did.
And we gotta give him the props that he deserves.
Oh my God!
I wonder how much he's making.
Not enough.
The top general managers going. He took Boston out of there. He's taking Chicago out of there. Yeah, he is a great general manager.
I don't think there's any better. I really don't.
Now, Mr. Yankee, now if he was still a Red Sox, now if Theo Epstein was still a Red Sox manager, Mr. Yankee wouldn't say that, that because but he's a Cub now, so you're kind of happy that he's on the other side of the world.
The other side of the river, huh?
Of course, man. I was scared when you were general manager. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I bet you weren't talking very happy about him, but you were talking about really good old-time managers, and I didn't hear the best who was ever in the game.
Billy Martin.
Wow.
Billy Martin.
I saw Billy Martin as a player, and I loved him as a player. He was one of my favorite all-time Yankees.
And and I think he played the game with the same attitude that he managed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah! Oh, hey, he slid in the second one time and got in a fight with Clint Courtney because he chewed spikes up. And Courtney says, "You want to go?" And Billy Martin, "Yeah, man, let's go."
Oh man!
No, Billy was a guy that had good talent, but not great talent. But he hustled and he played, man, hard.
He did, and he played the game the way Bryce Harper, the way Pete Rose did, with that, like you said, that constant hustle, always working hard. That's exactly how he played.
I think the Yankees gave him a hard deal in that fight over in the Copacabana because they blamed him and traded him. That was a mistake.
Well, they traded him one time. How many times did they fire him as a manager? 11?
4 times.
They hire him back, huh?
But he kept coming back. I tell you, I was very proud and honored that I was able to know Billy and talk with him before he passed. And he, as you know, was a character till the very end.
Oh, my God. I love, you know what? Characters in baseball. That's what baseball needs. Clean characters.
Very much so, and we miss that.
Yeah, and Mr. Yankee, my favorite Yankee, since you're talking about you two guys, my favorite Yankee, he's going to know who I'm going to say. It's the captain, Derek Jeter. Yes. The captain. My favorite Yankee.
Derek Jeter was a class act of baseball. He epitomized the way you play the game. He respected his parents. He respected people. You can't ask for more than that.
That's why he's my favorite Yankee.
And I agree with that. I mean, in today's day and age, with all the social media, with all the spies, you never heard one bad thing about Derek Jeter.
I got real quick. I got a funny story, Joe, and you'll notice because you gave me the book. Derek Jeter missed a pitch that was off the plate. Dopey says, "Why are you swinging at that?" And Derek Jeter says, "Well, you always swung at them." He says, "Yeah, but at least I hit them."
That's what Yogi said to him.
That's a true story. It's in the book. Oh, that's so funny.
Yogi is just the best.
I'll never.
That's another character.
I was just going to say, you're talking about characters. When you go back to Billy Martin, Tommy Lasorda, Don Zimmer, Yogi, of course. I mean, baseball needed those guys.
Oh, yes.
And now we're down to Tommy and Yogi.
Yeah, I tell you something. There's a guy you mentioned that slips by the cracks. Don Zimmer. what a baseball man.
Oh, was he ever?
Mm-hmm.
Was he
What
ever?
the game is anybody?
He knew the game better. You're exactly right. He knew it better than everybody. He was absolutely lived, breathed, died baseball. A funny man. He was great. But you know what made him so great? What organization did he start out in? Where did he learn the game?
Let me see. Wasn't it Boston?
It didn't take him long to think about that one.
No, it was. Hey, look.
It was the Dodgers.
As much as I'm a Yankee fan, Joe, you always know me to give credit to the Dodger organization.
Yes, you have.
By the way, Mr. Yankee, have you got your playoff tickets bought yet, or are you just going to watch them at home?
What's that?
Are you going to watch the playoffs at home, or are you going to get your playoff tickets?
I'm too old to. I don't like going to the stadiums anymore. I like staying home, watching it on a nice TV, so I can yell and scream and cry, and nobody has to see me.
And you don't have to duck peanuts. And you don't have to duck peanuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, but at least we had peanuts for the whole night.
That's a good thing.
Yes, we did.
Oh, God, you know what? It was fun going to Dodger Stadium, then, Joe.
It's always fun. Any baseball game.
But now, I don't know, the crowd is getting rougher and rougher.
Things are getting better.
Oh, I hope so. Baseball doesn't need all that shenanigans.
No,
I agree
it
with
doesn't.
you, most definitely.
No, it doesn't. It needs to be what it used to be, America's pastime.
You got to respect the other team.
Right, right.
You know, I mean, I love the Yankees more than anything, but I respect baseball, and I respect the teams.
Right, and that's how we were brought up and raised when we played. I mean, it would be, you know, you're not friends with the other guys, you don't talk to them on the field, but you respect them.
Right. Come on, they're baseball players, man. You know, what it takes to get to the major leagues, I respect every single baseball player.
Well, and not even to get to the major leagues, what it takes to be a professional, even in rookie ball, single A, what it takes to be a professional. I mean, anybody can play high school.
Right.
You know, but to make it, it's, you know, that's a very, very few people that start in Little League and end up being able to say, I was a professional baseball player.
That's
right. And Joe, I've always said that. Had you had Crystal as your wife from the beginning, you'd have been in the major leagues.
Well, thank you. Thank you. She is awesome.
All right?
She is awesome. I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel that way.
Yeah. And you know I feel that way.
And I appreciate that, and so will she when she hears.
Yeah, talking about, of course, Joe, of course, played in the majors, and, of course, I have a little story. I've shared this with Joe. My grandfather was out playing yard ball, Mr. Yankee, up in the hills of Tennessee, and was playing in a scout. You're talking about scouts, a scout from the Memphis Chicks, a AA organization for the St. Louis Cardinals, offered my grandfather a contract.
Oh!
But he said, I got to go and talk to my mom and dad. They needed him in the field. They told him no. He couldn't go. My grandfather could have been pitching or playing first base for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow. Baseball's such a great game.
It is, and just as well as I do, just as well as historians do, just what Chris said is true. Back in the 40s, 50s, it started slowing down more in the 60s, but in the 40s and 50s, there were a lot of talented athletes out there who could have been signed that just didn't play for family reasons. At 11 years old, you're working on the farm, and that's where they need you.
Right.
And we lost a lot of people.
But now they got little leagues where the kids are traveling and playing ball. It's a whole different game. But you know what? Baseball will always survive.
I really hope so.
I love watching the Little League World Series. Those guys getting out there. Those kids are having fun, but they know what they're playing for, but they're having fun.
But here's the best thing. They're sharing it with one another. After the games, they're going to the place and playing all the arcade games together.
Right, they're having pizza together. They don't all get in their cars and go home like today's athletes do.
And you know what? That's what we need. You need to tell me, Joe, that these so-called minds are running all these countries can't take a look at the Little League and see all the different countries and everybody meshing together and having fun.
Yes.
Absolutely right. And again, back to the Chicago Cubs. I think that's why they're doing so well this year. They have such a young team, and all those kids are playing for the fun and the love of the game. It hasn't become a business yet for them, and that's why they're winning. They're just having fun.
And they have the manager to do that with.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
I always enjoyed watching Joe Madden teams when he coached at Tampa. When he was the manager of Tampa, when he got them to that World Series. You know how they got to that World Series? Because they had fun.
That's exactly right.
They had fun.
And Joe Madden pushes that. He wants you to just play the game for the fun of the game. Because he loves the game.
He may be the last character, Joe.
You know, I was just going to say, I don't know that he is a character per se, but he is very much a Don Zimmer type. I mean, he lives, breathes, and dies the game, and is that type of a person, only doesn't conduct himself in the manner that Zimmer did, you know, and nothing against either style, but they both live, breathe, and died baseball without a doubt.
I don't think Joe Madden has been thrown out of a game all year, has he?
I think he wanted to be thrown out of yesterday's game.
But the guy that you're talking about these old school managers, but every time there was a bad call, and I would be watching, me and my grandfather would watch the Atlanta Braves. When Bobby, if there was a bad call, you knew Bobby was going to come out of that dugout. He wasn't going to be. He was either going to stay or get put back in the dugout, or was going to go to the shower because Bobby threw some fits. But I've never seen Joe Madden. He just keeps his cool.
But you know, Bobby Cox was one. I know my time with the Braves, he was one. But just think of he wasn't even in the top 3 or 4. I mean, just think about Piniella and Earl Weaver. And
who did Piniella learn it from?
Who do you think he learned it from?
Billy Martin.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's what he saw. And Billy Martin, the best manager in baseball.
He loved Billy Martin, and he said he copied everything from him.
And don't forget your Tommy Lasorda, another one right up there with doing those things. But
yeah.
I mean, I used to love and watch a game hoping that something would happen to make Earl or Billy or Lou come out of that dugout and yell at the umpires. It was the game.
Was there a bet going in the dugout saying who's going to snap first, guys?
It was really.
Who's going to snap first?
It was like watching hockey and waiting for the fight. You know, you knew it was going to happen. You knew one of them was going to go. It was just when and where, and you were waiting. It was always so much fun to watch.
But one of the great manager of umpire things was in Marv Throneberry. You remember Marv Throneberry?
Oh, yeah.
He hit a ball over the head. He missed first, he missed second, and it was a close play at third. So out comes Casey, and the ump goes, Casey, you know he missed first and second. Get out of here. And Casey said, yeah, I know, but it's my job.
Casey Stengel, there is another character.
Mark Throneberry missed first and he missed second.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, boy. But you know what? Those players are not around anymore, Joe.
No, they're not. And baseball misses that.
Oh, my God.
Baseball misses that. You know, and we were talking last week with Bernie Carbo, and he talked about even this pitcher with the Red Sox back then, Spaceman Bill Lee.
Oh!
You know, those kind of guys are gone. The game needs characters like that.
Most definitely.
He's still doing some kind of pitching in some
you know, Bernie told me the other day, we went to lunch the other day, and he told me that last year, and I think he said Bill Lee was in his 70s or 80s, I think 80s, but maybe not, but he's older, and that he's still pitching in a 50 and over league. Isn't that amazing? So again, you're talking about just for the love of the game.
How about one of the great characters, and he fizzled too fast, Mark Fidrich?
Oh my gosh, the Bird.
Yeah.
With the Detroit Tigers. Remember, I can still see him out there holding the ball and talking to it.
Talking to the mound and everything.
Oh,
man. Pitch, Joe.
He can pitch. You know, and another one like that, speaking of characters, Al Roboski with your St. Louis Cardinals.
The man Hungarian.
Oh, my gosh.
But they're great for the game, though.
They are great for the game. Baseball misses that and needs some of those guys.
Oh, man.
Back
You know
in the
what?
game.
And they didn't do any harm to anybody. They were just characters.
Exactly right. Having fun, feeling the game, and being themselves. Absolutely right.
Cal Ripken, one of those guys too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cal Ripken's a class act.
Cal Ripken and Tony Gwynn were two of the classiest, best players that I've ever seen play.
And God rest Tony Gwynn.
I mean, they were.
Oh,
They were
Tony
just
Gwynn was what a good guy, too.
very,
Yes.
very, and his brother Chris too. Just really good family, really good guy. Boy, did he leave us way too early in this world.
Yeah. You know, but boy, what a player. Well, you know what? Very few people can hit a baseball like Tony Gwynn.
Very much. I mean, he was just fun to watch, always consistent, and again, never played for a winning team. You know, I mean, they had the 1 year, but just stayed with the team, loyal, just like Cal Ripken with the Orioles.
Right.
Loyal, did his best, not better players. I mean, they just two class acts who played the game the way it was supposed to be.
Hey, Joe, could you tell me what team that Tony Gwynn played against in the World Series?
No.
Let me give you a hint, Joe, okay? It's a pinstripe uniform.
Yankees.
You can't think, huh?
No, I can't. Oh, wait, who wears pinstripes?
Yeah.
Let's see.
How about the New York Yankees?
Oh, they sure did. That was a heck of a series.
Who was
Tony
Tony
Gwynn?
Gwynn?
He got the Yankee Stadium. He said, "Oh my God, wow!"
Yeah. Of course, he had never been, you know, they didn't have interleague play back then. He had never been to an American League park like that.
Wow. So back when that played, they never. When did they start them? When did they start the interleague play? I know back. It's been a few years ago, hadn't it? You know, a long way back.
I think it was late 1990s, something like that.
Yeah,
Joe.
it was in the 90s.
Okay.
So, those guys, unless you were traveling on your own as a kid or something, they didn't see those other ballparks.
Wow.
So, and when they get to Yankee Stadium, I mean, you know, there's a whole different vibe there.
Well, and especially when you're a player, because everybody knows about the shrines and the monuments,
Right.
and especially old Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And
Oh, my God.
where you wanted to go. I mean, as a player, you wanted to go to Yankee Stadium, you wanted to go to Fenway, and you wanted to go to Wrigley. That's where you wanted to go.
And Dodger Stadium.
And Dodger Stadium.
That's the last of the great ballparks, which you can call a ballpark. Now they're not ballparks; they're almost little cities.
Pretty much, you're right.
Very much so.
I had the honor of a few years ago sitting in Busch Stadium for the first time. I didn't get to sit in the old Busch Stadium. My grandfather did, my mom. They used to tell me about how it used to look, you know, where Big Mac Land is. That used to be down the third baseline used to be the old Busch Stadium. You know, it was just sitting there and my grandfather would be, you know, he would remember where things were and all that. It's just, you know, and then I would try to visualize that, you know, and see where things.
I mean,
it's just so cool.
It really is such a shame that they couldn't have built the old park or the new parks right where the old parks were and just improve them and enhance them.
Built around them, have like have the ballpark, and then maybe have the other stuff maybe outside of the ballpark.
Right, surrounding it. But leave the ballparks the way they were. I think that's what you know the charm is with Wrigley and Fenway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all original.
I mean, it's.
Hey Joe, you know, you're talking about the Cardinals, right? Great St. Louis Cardinals. How about one of the most underrated players of all time, Stan the Man Musial?
Very much so. Very much so. And you know, we're talking about people who played the game right in class acts, and Stan was one of them.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I think he was the best line drive hitter of all time.
Oh, arguably so. I could say that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he was as good as, you know, there was a thing about Ted Williams, but he was as good as Ted Williams.
You know, I remember being at the games, and when Ted Williams would get a hit, which was, you know, pretty often, unfortunately, if you weren't rooting for them, and he was one of very few players where I remember where when he would make contact, you could actually hear the ball travel off the bat.
Oh, another guy was Mickey Mantle.
He was amazing.
He hit that ball, though. Holy shit, you thought it was a bullet.
From either side of the plate, left or right. He was amazing.
Joe, could you argue he's the first 7-tool player? You got the 5 tools, but you got hitting for power from the left side and hitting for average from the left side.
And he did. He did. I could argue that.
So that's 7 tools.
And another one who was just like that, and almost as successful was Eddie Murray.
Yeah. Eddie, again, another underrated ball player.
Very, very and he's in the Hall of Fame.
But if you ask me, a baseball fan today, who is Eddie Murray? They say, oh, you mean the comedian?
Exactly right. and I'll tell you, worse than asking a baseball fan, ask some of the kids playing the game today, even in the major league level. That's the history of the game is gone, and it's ruining our sport.
That's why I'm glad every year to have a Jackie Robinson Day, so these kids can understand the old time and what he did for the game.
And what he went through just to play the game.
Right.
Got his hand stepped on, got called language. I remember seeing the movie, him getting in the locker room and breaking that bat. Just the anger that, he was trying to restrain himself, Jackie Robinson Day, Hank Aaron, and Hank, and this is what I wish that Major League Baseball would do. Let these players go to Cooperstown and learn about the game.
They need to have we all talk about school and philosophy 101, English 101. Every major league team needs to have somebody come in and do baseball 101.
Yes.
And teach them all those things.
Another player that they just had a couple of days ago, Roberto Clemente.
Oh my gosh! And he got that 3,000th hit the last day of that season, and then had the plane crash and died.
Wow! But what a human being!
What a human being! What a class act! But Jackie, I was honored to have met him. Just a thrill to be in his presence. You could still feel how awesome that man was and what he went through.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just an honor.
It was just. That's what baseball needs.
Yes, it is. And it needs more fans like you. Mr. Yankee, we appreciate you calling in. We got to turn in for the evening. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
And don't forget, guys, shout out to the first responders.
And a shout out to the first responders.
Yes, most definitely.
Absolutely.
All righty, guys.
All right, thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, thanks, Mr. Yankee. Well, you and Paul you guys didn't tell no lie. Mr. Yankee knows his stuff.
He knows his stuff. He's a great, great baseball fan.
Yeah, he is, and that's what you talk about. You don't never see those fans anymore.
No, you don't, and you don't see the players of today knowing that history and who those guys are. And like he said, ask a player today who's Eddie Murray, and they go, "Oh yeah, he's that comedian."
That's
they just don't know.
That's right. I mean, a lot of these guys, all these kids now when they do the Little League World Series. Hi, my name is such and such. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. My favorite player is Alex Rodriguez. Hi, my name is such and such, and I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. My favorite player is Evan Longoria. You don't never hear them say about the old timey players.
Right.
My favorite players growing up was David Justice, and I liked Jose Canseco before he went crazy, and Frank Thomas. Those were my 3 favorites. But David Justice was my favorite, and as David Justice moved on, I've migrated toward Chipper Jones.
Can't beat Chipper Jones.
And then my favorite player right now is Albert Pujols.
And another underrated player, a Brave, that we've talked about on the show before, Dale Murphy.
Dale Murphy.
Just very underrated, belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Does belong in the Hall of Fame, and, everybody always talks about, when Atlanta had the big 3, Smokes, Maddox, Glavine, and then Avery. But you need to think about the time before the Braves were the Braves, when they were the dynasty, won that so many division championships. It was Hank, it was Dale, it was all these guys.
Very much
It was all those guys, but everybody's always looking back at small. But see, that's the history of the game. the Atlanta Braves are known for pitching, and because of those three names, they're in Cooperstown today. Smokes, Maddox, and Glavine.
Very true.
And Steve Avery, and of course Chipper's probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I think
I wouldn't be. I don't think there's not going to be ifs, ands, or buts about Chipper's going in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
he may
without a doubt.
have never.
I do think he will be a first time.
He never may have won a World Series, but what he did, and
he's another guy like what we talked about with Tony Gwynn.
Character.
Just a class act. Just
a
class act.
You don't see any more of those anymore, Joe.
No,
Class
not
acts
the way
are gone.
They were.
No.
Derek Jeter.
Yes.
I think we need somebody to step up. We need somebody to step up and be those guys.
Yeah, and these young guys like Bryce Harper, all these kids. I know we're getting close, but just talking about these, you see Bryce Harper. We talked about him. Throwing, not running, hustling on a play. Kids are watching that.
Right.
You see a guy like the Altuve, the guy that plays for the Astros, the second baseman, a hustler.
Always hustling.
A hustler.
Mike Trout.
Mike Trout.
Hustling.
Mike Trout will run through a brick wall just to catch a fly ball.
Yeah. Very much so.
I mean, literally, I think Mike Trout, if there was a fly ball and there was a brick wall there, Mike Trout would run through the brick wall to catch the ball.
If it meant his team was going to win, he would.
Yes. Mike Trout, another great ball player out there. What's another one out there that's a Donaldson, Chris Donaldson.
Like Mr. Yankee said, Donaldson, you got to go with Rizzo.
Rizzo, he's the same way. I think Rizzo, one game back before after the All-Star break, he went into the stands to catch a fly ball.
Yes, he did.
I mean, literally,
heck of a catch.
3 rows into the first row, and
you don't see that anymore.
You don't. And I still remember Derek doing that. Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
And then the flip. The athletic ability to flip and get Giambi at home.
Yeah.
And then, for him to go into the crowd, I mean, anymore you don't see none of those players
do that effort
because
anymore.
their agents are telling them, don't hurt yourself. You got a Pepsi commercial in the morning. You can't hurt yourself. Then you got to go to the ballpark. I'm telling you, Jeter didn't care if he had a Pepsi commercial tomorrow. He'd be coming in there with a limp because I'm trying to win a World Series.
Played the game the way it was supposed to be played.
Wide open and fast and in love for the game.
Very much so. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight on Inside Pitch with myself, Joe Mansolino, and my co-host tonight, Chris Strickland, who sat in for Paul Marini. We appreciate you listening. We want to thank our sponsors for all that they do for us. And have a great evening. We'll see you next Saturday night.
All right, and Paul will be back in. And, Joe, thank you for letting me sit in with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we want to thank you again, everybody, for being with us. And we will send, of course, Paul will be back next week, and we will see you next week right here on the Inside Pitch. Y'all have a blessed week.